Right, I'm going to talk a little bit about wobble. Now this is wobbling a small amount as it's going up, and I imagine as it's coming down, and I think it is the bracket, but some say it might be the coupling or a threaded rod in this case. But then I've seen even Acme rods and such like can also have wobble on, so I don't think it's a threaded rod. I think it's most likely the bracket, remembering that this motor was damaged. Well, not this actual one, I've had to change, this is a new motor and it was damaged. So to try and show you the wobble, I'm going to ask it to go up to 100, and it's grating a bit there. Sometimes you can notice it on this like top nut here, that is like wavering. And it's certainly got a bit of a grating sound there. But what I'm going to be using is this steel ruler to try and hold this on it, and then that will probably amplify the wobble. But sometimes you can notice on the top of the threaded rods. I let go to the top, then I'm going to ask it to do a home. It's getting near the top now. I'm just wedging this ruler in here a bit, so if there's any wobble we'll probably see that this will spring and such like. Excuse me. Oh, that's alright. So I'm going to tell it to Z home just now when I can find the button. There we go. I don't think it's quite so pronounced when it is coming down. Let me go to the top of that threaded rod up there. I'm asking this to stop by the end stop about quarter an inch from the surface of the bed. Oops, going out of focus there, but you can see how much that's wobbling. It's this other side like. Oh, we stopped there, sorry. The other side is wobbling as well, just the same. Right, I'm going to give it the command to come up. I'm going to only ask it to do about 100 feed rate, that is, coming up to 100 feed rate, and it's still giving that grating sound. You can see how much that is wobbling a bit there, I think on the end of this ruler here. To a certain extent, I think adding that ruler has helped. Just the weight of that ruler has helped dampen some of the wobble. Now why it's making this grating noise every so often I do not know. Again, it must be sticking a bit somewhere, somehow. Let me try and get the top of that threaded rod over there. And this one over here. It's mainly this left hand side that is causing the problems. This is the stepper motor that was seriously damaged. The bracket was damaged. It's going to need a top now. I do have these flexible couplings, as you see, and it certainly looks like the top of that was like almost wavering a bit. So I think that this stepper might not be totally in line. So what I'm going to do actually is loosen off these nuts and bolts. Very difficult to do because they're very tight in there. They're very close to other nuts and bolts, like the ones coming down. And then set it away up and down a couple of times, and then tighten it up, probably while it's actually going up, so that it will hopefully balance any sort of out of alignment it has. Let me take this ruler out, and I'll come back when I've done that. Right, I've loosened off the nuts sort of on the side there, so this can actually move about a little bit, and I'm going to tell it to home now and see what happens. I might have been grating, by the way. I might have the speed a bit too fast, because if you have the speed too fast on steppers they can miss steps. Anyway, let's home. Look at the top if we can. And actually move this a bit. So, you know, that started grating there because I moved it, I think. So you might want this front edge of this bracket almost want lifting, because this bracket was severely bent. Very badly. Actually, the shaft of the other stepper I had on here was very bent. I think this one on the right hand side, well, the shaft at the top is certainly wobbling, and there it's come to the end stop. So now let's go back up to 100. Actually, I'm going to change the speed to 100, F for 100. So that would, and can you hear that clunking? It seems to be, particularly when it's lower down, near the bottom here. Did it again just there a bit. to even slacken off the grub screws in the flexible bearing there to see if that will help. Obviously that might stop it turning, but we shall see if that helps at all. Listen to the noise of that. It seems every so often that it starts making this noise, and that would suggest that it is the threaded rod that's distorted. If it is the threaded rod, so I won't be too happy. Don't ask me why, it just won't be. I'd rather buy steppers than threaded rods. So basically I'm just going to go up and down a few times, and then I'm going to tighten up those nuts on the stepper, and we'll see how it does after I've done that. I'll just follow this. It's getting near the top anyway, it'll be finishing. That's set to 200. Why was I thinking 320? I haven't measured this, so I don't know. 350, I mean, there we are, it's at the top now. So let's Z home. Feed rate there is only set to 100, F100. Mind you, when I do the home button, it might, I think it overrules that in front of face. It's got some sort of reverberation here, I can hear it. Hear it there, and that seems to be, sorry I knocked the camera there, but that seems to be the point when it's going up, that it's about that height. The hot end is not on, don't worry, I'm just using front of face to move up and down, that's all I'm doing at the moment. Anyway, I'm going to go up and down a few more times, and then I'll come back after I've done that, just to sort of see if this will bed in any better. Right, I think if we look at the edge of this cog here, which is like the tooth belt going to the X carriage, this is the Z motor going up and down. You'll see how much this wobbles if you compare it with the edge of this metal bracket when I'm going up. Or maybe it does it more when it comes down. I've increased the speed a bit here, the feed rate that is, and then we should be finishing just now. Okay, I'm going to ask it to come home. You can hear that like reverberation there. And you might notice how much this is almost like wobbling. when you compare it with the edge of the metal frame there. Move the light a bit, see it a little bit better. The nuts at the bottom on the stepper bracket are still reasonably loose. I seem to click there and jump a bit. Head is not touching. It's about 1/4 inch off, so it's not that. But I'm going to tighten up these nuts down here now. I mean, they're reasonably tight. I wouldn't say they're really loose, but they're just a bit loose, so it can move if it wants. I'm going to tighten them up, and then I'm going to look at the flexible coupling there. So here is the flexible coupling. Now actually there are 2 grub screws here, one for the stepper and one for the threaded rod above it here. And there's 2 more here. Now they're not at 180 degrees, so it's almost like those 2 are going to push the threaded rod over to one side or the other, and there's not much I can do about that. But first of all, I'm just going to loosen this grub screw off, and this other one. I'm going to leave that nut as it is, and I'm going to ask it to go up now. Oh no, we're already up. I'm going to ask it to come down. There we go. You see that's sort of slipping there. I'm going to have to stop it because it's going to put it out of line because it's not gripping it on. Let me reset. And I'm going to ask it to go up 10, well 20 I think, just now. Can't really, it's very hard to control this laptop actually, so let me just check, turn it on, hopefully it won't start up because I've reset it. So asking it to go up 20, 250 feed. I'm just doing the right hand side one, which I expected, and this one isn't 10, but the fact that that's 10 there, I'm hoping that will like settle it in. So I'm going to just very loosely tighten that so it's just about touching. I'm going to turn it round to the grub screw and do the same on that one. So a bit like you might screw down a cylinder head on a car, gradually tighten each one a little bit. Sorry if this camera's getting knocked, etc, etc. Sometimes this happens. I think these are 2.5, the size of the Allen key there. Now they look pretty level at the top, so I'm going to ask for a Z home. Go. There's still a slight wobble on that, I can see it. So you can hear that. Leave it almost right in there. If you ask me, that's worse actually. But that could indicate that I am on the right track. About that. Speed 250 I'm asking for. But don't forget it was knocked out of line a bit, but they look reasonably nice. I'm going to reset that because I don't want any more of that, to be honest with you. I'm going to say, I'm going to do it manually, 25 speed, and the Z minus 200 because it should stop on the end stopping way. So that's very slow indeed. So it will look like it's jerking as it's going round because it's going round in the steps. But that is certainly sticking. It seems like it's sticking. I can see on the right hand side that seems to be sticking every so often. I'm going to pause the camera because it's so slow, no point watching this. So I'm just showing you this as a temporary thing. What I intend to do now is it's reached the top. I'm going to loosen off the bottom two group screws and do pretty much the same as I did with the top ones. Now this might drop a bit because there's a gap here. Actually I'm going to take off this print thread because it's scratched. I mean it's bad enough as it is, but it's not make it any worse if we can help it, and I can get in easier. That's that one loosened. There's the other one. Actually it's not dropping very much there, so there can't be much of a gap. So I'm going to loosen them. It did drop a little bit, about a millimetre or so I think. I'm going to loosen them off quite a bit, and I'm going to ask for Z to come down a few degrees, and it's come down on the right, but hopefully that motor's turned. I'm going to ask it to go up again, same amount, 10, whatever it is. Yes, the shaft is turning here. I'm going to ask it to come down 10. See the shaft is rotating. I'm going to ask it to go back up 10. And by doing this I'm hoping that in a way this will centre on the shaft. Having the two like grub screws coming in almost at an angle like this, well, I don't think that's really a good idea, to be honest. Now I'm going to lift this just that little bit to give a bit of a gap. Tighten one a little bit, as much as well, not as much as I can, but firm. Tighten the other one, go back round and tighten the first one. I was doing a bit more. This Allen key thing tends to get jammed in here, because I think this is the wrong size Allen key actually. This is a 2 where it wants to be 2.5 I believe. Right, just trying to see if the gap there is about the same on the right hand side there. and we're going to come down, so we're going to ask it to do Z home. We've still got wobble there. Looking at this bottom bracket down here, down a little bit, there seems to be a gap. There's a gap at the front towards us, that is, that seems to be touching at the back. This other one, there's a gap all the way along on the right hand side. I might be able to demonstrate that so you can get that paper now sort of stop and change direction. I think that's affected it. Going back up. So there is a gap all the way along. It might be just the shadows actually. To a certain extent it is the shadows, but I think it is a slight bit not level with this wood, although this wood is not very good at leveling stuff anyway. As you can hear, you're getting that reverberation. And there's certain times in this threaded rod that certainly seems to be louder and worse. And I've been thinking about swapping the threaded rods over right to left and such like, to see what impact that might have. When I do that, I'll probably try and roll this threaded rod on something I think is reasonably flat to see if it does look bent. But remembering that this stepper on this left hand side, the amount of bend that was in it was absolutely ridiculous. Even in the shaft, the actual stepper shaft. So a lot of that might have been translated to that threaded rod. And that's it. Basically I'm going to finish off there, and I'll think what I want to do next. But the likelihood is that I'm going to swap the threaded rods left to right and such like, and when I'm doing that I'll roll that threaded rod to see if it looks like it's level or not. Okay, I've swapped the two screws over, lead screws. They're not really lead screws, I always forget the name, threaded rods. And I noticed when I was doing these, because these do have an anti-backlash spring in these, so I've got a nut above and a nut below and a spring between them to put those two nuts under tension so you get less or zero backlash. That there was an awful lot of free play in these sort of bearings round here with this threaded rod going into. Now I've just been doing it, and one of the things, it did crunch a bit because it came down right to the bed, because this stupid limit switch down here, it's only on a Jubilee clip, and it turned round, it moved round, and it wasn't getting knocked by the piece of wood that I added, which I talked about the other day. But anyway, let's tell it to go up 200 so you can see this. I also noticed that when I was putting this lead screw threaded rod into here, it was almost like it was out of line. But it's gone in all right. And there seems to be virtually no wobble. Actually the wobble seems to be over on this side on the threaded rod. I'll try and show you that in a few minutes. Let's watch this go up a bit. I did roll them on a flat table, both rods, and they seem both about the same. Not much bend in them or anything like that. I couldn't see anything definite. Well, I wasn't doing an engineering test or anything. Sorry, this camera's creaking here. But that seems to me to be a lot smoother. I've also lowered the 0 for the Y axis, so it'll come down. It almost touches the bed. It comes about 1/8 away from the bed, 1/8 of an inch, a couple of millimeters, maybe 3 millimeters or so, and that's on all 4 corners approximately, because I have adjusted the screws now, the bed leveling to, you know, it's not like a major proper bed leveling, but I'm just getting somewhere near, so to speak. And there you are. It seems pretty level to me. It doesn't seem to be anywhere near as bad as what it was. I'm going to bring this down again just now when it gets to the top. There we are. Let's get down. Because I want to show you the rod here. This one, this threaded rod at the top. I was certainly waving in the breeze, so to speak, as it was going up there. And actually looking down at the bottom, down here, it does seem to be like wavering a bit. I'm not sure how well that will show up on the camera as compared with this. This is also wavering a bit, but not as bad as this one. Remember, and I have swapped these about, so maybe it was the threaded rod that was causing a problem. Well, let's have a look at that top up there. Hopefully you can see that that is blowing in the breeze, or let's say that. This one is moving a little bit, but not so bad as this one. As this gets lower, the carriage, you can probably see that noticeably there. It's reached the end now, so there's nothing much I can really say about that really. I don't know if there's much I can do. Let me just go back up once more, because you'll be getting bored with this, I imagine. There's that. My hand behind it, so make a bit more light on it. You see, it does like wave quite a bit, and the nut is like rocking about a bit on the top here. But then it was this nut that over the other side that was rocking a lot. So now I've swapped the lead screws over, the threaded rods over. It seems that I've swapped a problem over, maybe. I haven't really been watching this go up to see if this rocks as much as the other one used to. might rock a small amount. It's only when I come to print that we will actually find out how bad anything is, I think. But I'm still waiting for an extruder stepper driver. The one that was in the controller, as I've mentioned, wasn't working. So basically just about everything's working now. Obviously still needs zeroing to the build platform properly, well anyway, somewhere near properly at least. It stops, as I say, within about 1/8 of an inch on all 4 corners at the moment, although there is a corner cut out of this build platform. Let's have a, there we are, that's stopped up there, it's good. See down here there's this corner cut out. Now why they're doing that, all I could think of is because there is that limit switch over there. We do a Y200, only doing an F100 here, and that is slow. Let me reset that actually. It's so slow, I don't want to be watching that. And let's do Y home. Otherwise it's going to complain when I do a Y200. So I'm doing 1,000 there. So the feed read there is 1,000 on the Y. You see the state of the bed. This is the cutout here. And over there is like a limit switch. Again, these are only tie wrapped on basically onto the smooth rods, so they can like move. They could easily get knocked or moved. Actually what I seriously be thinking about doing is drilling some holes in this back plate to put these cables through this back plate here, because I don't like the cables like that. But I think that's a lot better. Let me do a Y. I was entering that with G codes, by the way. Let's not a Y, an X, I mean X200. Let's X that when I find it on the keyboard, and F1000. This is just so I can do the home just now of all the things, and then I'll finish off. So let me get onto the home and Protomaker. Get a bit of buzzing as you hear. And then the final one is the Y to start coming down. So I think that has been an improvement to swap the 2 threaded rods over, left to right and right to left. I can see a bit of rocking on this on the right hand side. You might notice in the camera. Maybe a little bit on the left as well. I have a feeling that it is better. I don't know if we can see that nut on here. It's an half like rocking about all over the place. And that's reached its limit switch on the right hand side. As I say, these are very poor the way these limit switches are, because they could easily get knocked. One did earlier and started hitting the the build plate. Luckily the extruder wasn't on, otherwise it would have melted a hole in it, I think. So something will have to be done about these limit switches as well, but that's another day, I think. So there we are. Let's have a quick look around and finish off